Why did they come for the cartoonists?
I think in France there's a grand tradition of provocation. And Charlie Hebdo was founded in 1970 by a group of journalists, and this is really the older class of journalists and cartoonists that we're seeing here, who were part of the '68 revolution and were very much to the left. And their art was effectively, how do I say it? It's a
vulgar at times.
Absolutely, it was bawdy, and it was just sort of buffoonish in ways.
And they call themselves irresponsible, right? That is their adopted tagline.
They embraced it.
Yeah, and in 2000, this is what I'm wondering. Their relationship with France, with the government, is complicated because 2 years ago, the government of France actually, the Prime Minister Sarkozy, criticized them openly.
That's right, and well, it was actually Ayrault who criticized them, and the police, the Préfecture, and everyone said, please don't do this. But the fact of the matter is, this is, I'm sure Karin can elucidate this further, but there is freedom of speech in this country, and it was considered after the Danish cartoonist in 2006.
Right. Well, Emily, you're with Bloomberg Politics, and within the politics is your work, Dr. Karlekar, at the Freedom House. Freedom House, excuse me. I mean, this is an interesting point we're at right now. Is it a critical point, a tipping point? What kind of moment is this within your work?
Well, I mean, this attack was unprecedented, both for Europe and for France in terms of and actually globally in terms of the number of journalists killed in a single incident. It's the second worst attack that we've seen in recorded history in over 20 years. So it is a tipping point, I think, globally. For France, it is a tipping point as well. And I think after the Danish cartoons crisis almost a decade ago, this is another crucial point where we really see people rallying together to try and defend free speech around Europe. Really, what we've seen in terms of the outpouring of support for Charlie Hebdo is quite unusual, both for the journalist community, but also for the population at large.
Let's look back over the last 10 years. Freedom House is the best resource we have for understanding how press freedoms are growing or shrinking around the world. When we look at Europe and the experience that the Danish paper had also with cartoonists, do we yet have a sense that there is self-censorship going on, that newspapers are responding to this and actually pulling their coverage back?
Well, as you say, we've seen trends over the last decade of a decline in press freedom globally, and this has also affected Europe, somewhat surprisingly maybe. What we've seen is the impact of the economic crisis on the European press.
Right.
We've also seen the impact from instances such as the Danish cartoons and the growing self-censorship in certain European countries.
But Brendan Greeley, jump in here as well as Emily Greenhouse and Dr. Karlekar. I'm fascinated by the simple question, could Charlie Hebdo exist in America? I read the Onion piece yesterday, which is radically different than Charlie Hebdo. Emily, do you believe that Charlie Hebdo could exist in America?
I believe that it could. I think it comes from a different tradition, but I think it's important to point out that because of the tradition of identity politics in France, they actually have more restrictive freedom of speech laws there. It is illegal to incite racial hatred. Is the name of the law. And so actually, for instance, the comedian Jude Bala, he is not allowed, he has been banned legally from performing any a performance that, quote unquote, has incited racial hatred against Jews. And so Charlie Hebdo, the blasphemous printing of, lewd representations of the Prophet Muhammad are considered, are legal there, but it comes in this climate where certain other representations are not.
Well, of course, the cartoons were inflammatory. They invoked rage, but they also got people's attention. We've seen a lot of cartoonists, as a result, also respond.
It's amazing. Out on Twitter.
It's been all over Twitter, for instance. You have a masked gunman shooting down someone. I mean, there's one there from David Pope that was tweeted out last night. Yeah. There are also scenes from the vigil as well.
This one really
two pencils taking the place of the Twin Towers and a black airplane approaching it. Again, showing that cartoonists can do so much more. And of course, Hebdo Charlie, named because it's linked to Charlie Brown, Je suis Charlie.
Karin, how do you respond to any news institutions that choose not to run these cartoons? What a raging debate, Brendan. I mean, cable networks or print, whatever, they black them out. How do you respond to that as a pro?
Well, I mean, I think on a matter of principle, I would say that other news organizations should publish the cartoons out of solidarity and to show that this attack is not leading to self-censorship. But on a more practical level, I can understand that certain news organizations choose not to. I mean, many organizations are global. They have staff that need to be protected. And these, you know, if they publish these cartoons, it could lead to people being killed.
You know,
so it's understandable that people are choosing not
What's interesting about this debate is just how vulgar, in all respects, Charlie Hebdo is. You know, they also, you know, they published, you know, unspeakable sex acts between the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. I mean, this is the thing. These are the kinds of things that they do. But, you know, in your work on free speech, these are the people, the most vulgar, are the ones that are always the ones that end up being protected.
Yeah, no, I definitely think they should enjoy the same protections that other newspaper outlets and media organizations have. I mean, they are a distinctive type of organization because they are a satirical newspaper, but they should enjoy these same protections. I mean, satire and comedy and cartoons are an essential part of the media business and of free speech in general.
We described the cartoons in Charlie Hebdo as provocative, offensive, vulgar in many ways. They were in an effort to offend every Islamic piety. Although, having said that, and there is this long, rich tradition, they were also in some financial trouble as well. They shuttered for a while in the 1990s. Emily, to what extent was their vulgarity commercially driven to stay in business?
I don't think it was terribly commercially driven. I mean, I think like any print news organization, it has seen difficulty in the past decade or so, but I don't think that in particular contributes to it. But it is important to underline that it is a relatively fringe publication, and there's something very beautiful, to me at least, about the fact that the former Prime Minister has asked it to be censured in the past, and now everyone is saying, je suis Charlie, which rings of we are all Americans.
Your New Yorker article, our use of it yesterday was wonderful. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
Really a terrific article as well. Karin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Freedom House.